So you did it. You landed an interview for the job of your dreams. You spent hours preparing and you show up nice and early. You're nervous, but that's to be expected. You really want this job. You've been waiting for this job. The interview starts off great. You are nailing it. And then it happens. They ask you a question and you don't know how to answer it. You panic and mumble, I don't know. Or maybe you ramble through some long winded story, hoping that it distracts them, or maybe just somehow answers the question. The rest of the interview isn't much better. You can't stop thinking about how you've probably blown it, and your rest of the answers are just as bad. Has this ever happened to you? It's happened to me. I'm going to share my story because if so, I want you to stay tuned because I'm going to tell you how exactly to handle it in case it happens again. Hello there. Welcome to my channel, Finding Career Fulfillment. My name is Sarah Curto, and I am the career coach who helps you as an unhappy worker go from hating or tolerating the work that you do to loving your work life just as much as you love your life, where you never dread a day, where you live for every day, not just the weekends. One of the ways in which I help people with that is within my group coaching program, Career You Love Academy, where for only $100 a month Canadian, including taxes, I come to you with weekly coaching. We get all of those solutions to the problem solve, obstacles overcome, questions answered. You also get my course that teaches you everything you need to know about my 5-step process from going from not knowing what to do to landing in the job, not just like partway through, all the way through, and more. But in the meantime, before you join us in there, I want you to subscribe to this channel because I come here every single week and I drop a new training that teaches you all of the inside secrets of what I learned over my 15 years in the recruitment industry and human resources industry and the last 5 years of coaching over 500 people into jobs that they now adore. Okay, let's get to this week's training. It is a doozy. It is like awkward for the interviewer and the interviewee, especially for the interviewee. Now, I am sure that most of us have had this experience where we just couldn't think of an answer. Mine is like really silly. It is honestly a question I probably should have been prepared for. It was very early on in my career, before I even really started it. Well, my second career is recruitment before I was in mental health and counseling. I was interviewing for a recruiter job right out of school. And the question was, like I said, an easy one. If I were to call you references, what would they say? It totally caught me off guard, and I had no idea what to say. So I immediately started speaking, hoping I would ramble myself into an answer, saying all the wrong things, like, I'm friends with all my references, they'll say great things, to, well, I'm not sure what my father would say. It isn't easy working for your dad. Chuckle, chuckle. By the look on her face, I knew I screwed up, which totally derailed the rest of the interview. And needless to say, I did not get that job. So now I know that number one, to prepare better for interviews. I kind of walked in a little cocky, thinking I had this. Like, I was like, I have dealt with my nerves. I'm like a little bit better. I'm going to totally get this. I just actually ruined my nerves for the next few interviews. But I now know to prepare myself also for this happening. Because there are many times when we're asked a question where it throws us off guard, we don't have experience with whatever they're asking us for. And I like to prepare myself for it so that I know I can handle it calmly and confidently, meaning that I can leave the interview knowing that I gave it my all, but also where I don't screw up the rest of the interview and I can remain in contention for the role that I want. So, what do? I'm going to provide you a bunch of little tips depending on the scenario, the type of interview question that they're asking. I'm going to provide verbiage and things to say to the interviewer in response. So, this is one to watch all the way through to the end. Okay, so tip number one, remain calm. This is the most vitally important tip of all tips. Remain calm. I just rushed into it stressed. Instead, I want you to take a deep breath. Remind yourself, you've got this. Stay calm and confident. You can handle whatever comes your way. Tip number two is be open. Tough questions are a part of the game. So be open with the interviewer that you're having a tough time answering it. Be human. Remember, an interview is just a human talking to another human, seeing if they want to work together. So maybe you can say something like, great question. Let me think about that for a moment. Or if you're really struggling, would it be okay to come back to this question? That has been used on me as an interviewer all the time, and people are afraid to use it because they think they'll get docked marks or it'll show that they can't handle the pressure or whatever. The interviewer understands. They will just ask you the question at the end. So it is completely okay to do that. Tip number three is get out of your head. Now, as someone who lives inside my head, it's difficult to do this sometimes, but I want you to not be afraid to verbalize your thought process when you're trying to come up with an answer. This especially works for process-oriented or technical questions. Now, it's not necessarily rambling. It's like, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I would potentially. Now, here's a statement that I want you to use. I don't necessarily have experience with that exact process or technology, but this is how I would potentially approach it. And then share your thoughts out loud. It shows them your critical thinking, your problem solving. Many people underestimate the value of how they think and how they approach things, when in fact, interviewers love to hear that. In fact, there's a whole part of the interview process these days that test on that. So sharing your thoughts out loud, getting out of your head, tip number three. Tip number four is showcase your abilities. So if you're asked a knowledge-based or technical question and you don't know the answer, or even how you would go about answering the question, pivot and showcase your abilities. So I don't have experience with that exact fill in the blank, but that hasn't stopped me in the past. And then share a story about a time where at work, you were thrown into something new and how you quickly picked it up. Maybe you even became the team expert. That would be extra bonus. That'd be like the cherry on top. But many of us at work have had new technologies sort of thrust upon us because they did an upgrade or a complete system change. Many times a new process has been implemented and we've had to learn it. But sharing a time where at work where you were paid to learn and how you were able to learn is key to showcase your ability to overcome, to adapt, and to quickly learn. Tip number five, ask for clarification. This is especially helpful for those behavioral based questions. Tell me about a time type questions. Now, the interviewer will repeat the question, so you can ask, can you please repeat that? And then while they're repeating, it gives you time to come up with an answer. Now, if that doesn't work, you can even ask for them to say it in a different way. Can you ask that in a different way, please? And what it does is it buys you more time to collect yourself. Now, we can go back to one of the other tips where I talked about, you can also ask to move it to the end to give you even more time. Okay. Tip number 6, I think we're on, is be persistent. So you couldn't answer it, or your answer wasn't what you hoped it could be. That doesn't mean all is lost. Once you come to the end of the lackluster story, go into how you would go about finding out the right answer. So this is when you catch yourself more at the end of a rambly way to try and deal with the answer or the question that you don't know the answer to. So this is, you've done it, that's okay. Bring it around by talking about how you would go find the right answer. Show them you're not the type of person who sits back and expects things to come to you. You will go out there and find the solution. Maybe during the interview, after you've asked the question in not the best way, a better answer comes to you. Before you ask your questions that you have for the interviewer, ask if it's okay to revisit the question and share your new, stronger answer with them. The other way you can sort of save this with your persistence is after the interview, when you send your thank you email, talk them through what you now know. If it was a technical question, tell them how you researched and discovered the answer. If it was a behavioral based question, maybe go provide a quick 3-sentence story about it. Like, leave it all out there. You have nothing to lose. Now, to recap the tips, I want you to be calm, be open, need to get out of your head, share your thought process, showcase your abilities to learn, ask for clarification, and then 6, be persistent. But at the end of the day, I want you to know bad answers happen. And people who give bad answers still get hired because the perfect interview is rare. So what matters most is how you handle it. Don't let it ruin the rest of the interview. And one way to prepare for all of the tough interview questions that could get asked is make sure you grab my free interview guide. The link is below, which will tell you the exact way to answer some of the toughest questions out there. Now, stay tuned next week. Come back, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll help you find work you love, thrive in work you love by teaching you something new and exciting. Okay, until then, have a great week. Bye.